SwissBorg is the official partner of my channel where you can buy, sell, hold, and more importantly stake your cryptocurrencies. You can even earn yield on your stablecoins. Sign up with my link and you'll earn up to $100 worth of their native token CHSB just for depositing €50 worth of crypto. SwissBorg. Hello everybody, welcome back. We'll try and whiz through this. Just going to show you a few things to expect maybe where an absolute low would be in. So yesterday I was telling you, I believe it was yesterday, about how to navigate, or how I navigated the last bear market end, right? So I was one of those late, well, I suppose not that late, but it was the equivalent of all the people moving into the market around 2021, but I did it in 2016 to 17 really, and bought a load of XRP. Had a great time. Had a great time, but it was definitely a gamble. And I watched the bull market peak, and I got out sort of on the way down. So made close to about 80 to 90x on XRP, which is one of the reasons I hold it close to my heart. But then I watched the whole market sort of just come down more and more and more, and Bitcoin and crypto was felt very much more like a bubble back then, because it just was not popular. I watched it reached its peak, and the community was small. It was nothing like it is now. The utilization of the use case of Bitcoin was mostly for illegal transactions and stuff like this. So it wasn't. It felt very, very much like a bubble. There was no reason for me to expect it to sustain prices as I saw the bear market continue. So I just watched it from the sidelines. I wasn't even paying too much attention to it. Maybe I'd look at it once a week or something like that. I wasn't particularly interested in getting back in until I was confident that something special was happening. I looked at this fall down. It didn't surprise me. There was always a chance it was going to go down to 1,000. That was the expectation for many, because that was its previous bull market top, 1,000. But anyway, I watched it come down to this level. I was like, oh god, wow. And I was looking at all these other altcoins, that were very popular, back in 2017. And I was like, wow, absolute carnage. And then something just started to change. So we crashed all the way down to here, and then we started to reclaim, bit by bit, moving averages of significance. So your 7 simple, your 10 exponential, and this is where I started to get interested. I was like, okay, the 10 exponential has been reclaimed here. Okay, fair enough. Once, twice, 3 times, fair enough. So I went hard into Bitcoin because it looked like it was different. It definitely looked different to me at this stage. There was no bearish divergence. There was only encouraging situations brewing on all of these time frames, and on the lower term time frames like the daily, there were even buy signals and 4-hourly buy signals. It was looking great, and then suddenly, whoosh! About 300% move in a couple of months. The bull market began. So the reason I'm boring you to death with how it worked previously is that this is the sort of thing I'd like to see again. And at the moment, we're not going to see that, because 10 exponential and 7 simple, we're below them all at the moment still. So this isn't a big deal. If we're going to call this an accumulation, we have to see an accumulation style chart, really, which is at least sideways and up. Reclaiming moving averages on the weekly of significance, because if we're looking for a bull market to begin, we want longer, higher term time frames like weeklies to show signs of life. And the chart, in comparison to moving averages at least, doesn't have any signs of life, but the momentum sort of does. So we've got histogram green for the best part of 3 months now. We've got bullish divergence on the money flow index and the RSI for the same period of time. Now, divergence doesn't mean it's just going to go up. It's not the case. That's why I want to match that with price and relationship to moving averages, and we don't have that. So we can diverge, that's fine, and we can continue with the divergence at lower prices, and that's fine. So at the moment, I want to see that happen, and then I'll be okay. Maybe we're going to go into a bull market. Maybe this is accumulation. My favourite outcome, however, is not that. And my favourite outcome, the one I believe is most likely, is that we spill over to a new low across, obviously, crypto and traditional markets as well. Now, let me show you something on Bitcoin's long term. I've shown you this loads of times. The white lines refer to halvings. Each one of these is a halving. The price action between the peak and the low take place more or less in the middle. So we're talking, 1/3, 2/3 of the way through for a peak and a low, peak and a low, peak and a low. Now, if we think about all these lows, excuse me, what we recognize is that the lows seem to take place end of November into December. End of November into December, well, that's actually January, but more or less. What we've got over here, end of November into December. So we are approaching November, 2 weeks away from November. That's nice. It's nice to know. And then are we going to roll over and get a new low, a capitulation low, like we seem to have done more or less in the fourth quarter of the previous cycles? Yeah, as far as time is concerned, of these 4-year cycles, we are still, we're roughly in the right sort of place for that to happen. If we think about the peak and the low, peak and the low, peak and the low, and the low comes in around December-ish, early December, late December. Got about 6 weeks, maybe, haven't we? 6 to 8, maybe 10 weeks away from printing a low at a lower level, wherever that comes from, whether it's 16, maybe even 18, but 16, 14, 12, 8, who the hell knows? But it's not far away now. So to get too clever and start to throwing money into a market that looks quite like the one that we are in right now, it's going to be a bit crazy, For me, trying to play this market now, very much like I played it the last time round, which is to wait for signs of life on this market, and then basically have an amazing 3 years worth of profit, which is, it's not up only, but at least there's some kind of reassurance that pumping is going to continue to take place across the market for the most part of those 3 years. And I know most of you will have maybe forgotten about it, but if you got in at the beginning of the last bull market, even the Ethereum that I bought back down there and the Bitcoin that I bought back down there is still in profit now. It is the store of value, depending on where you bought it from. And I didn't catch the absolute low. I was probably about 20% from the low. So it's, but the idea is that I bought relatively a good area. So where was I? 20% from the low? Yeah, 20% from the low. You can't complain with that, considering it's all still in profit now. Still pretty good. So I'll be looking for something like that, to be honest with you, to happen, unless, of course, over the next, it'll take weeks, but over the next few weeks, we actually start to reclaim these moving averages and continue to go kind of sideways. And they'll look much more like an accumulation, and then a bull market begins just like it did last time, in the same way. But does this mean we capitulate first, or has this been the capitulation? The chart has yet to tell us. So if we compare this chart with the S&P, for instance, the S&P is looking pretty sorry for itself, closing now for the first time below the 200 weekly moving average, which suggests that if this is the case, probably want to go sideways and down again as we have closed below this for the first time. Let's forget about the crash here, but for the first time since 2008 or 2000. So these things have happened in the past over the last 20 years, and they've resulted in further downside. That's generally what you'd expect. It's what we're getting for Bitcoin. It's what we'll be getting for this. And so, like I say, I'm not particularly convinced that we're going to see major upside. I know a lot of people are talking about midterms, like somehow Biden is going to pump this market. You don't realize how much that would take, how much money it would take to pump these markets. All these markets, it would take a phenomenal amount of money to pump these markets for the midterms. There might be some relief rallies, but as we've seen, yesterday's or the day before, Thursday's relief rally faded instantly. And we're back down to where we started from, basically. Right back down to where we started from. So in the short term, I'd still think the downside is most likely. What took place on Thursday made no sense at all. And the market has basically recognised that it made no sense. And we should just sit back and watch and wait to see where this all ends up over the next 6 to 8 to 10 weeks, really. Like I say, between now and December, the low should be in, and whether you decide to knife catch that low or wait for an accumulation like I did in the previous bull market, it's perfectly, absolutely, I have no problems with people saying that that's a good idea. What's wrong with that? All we want to do is make money. So if your entry point results in money, especially more or less instant gratification from the lows, then great. If you're trying to catch a knife in a bear market, especially one that's being felt across all countries, of all indices, stocks, the lot. If you're trying to catch a knife in this environment, then fair play to you. Obviously, you've got big balls or probably a very large disposable income. But for me, I make my money through trading and investing, so I can't really justify trying to catch a knife, given the fact that the previous bear markets have ended in capitulations around November to December, and we are now approaching November to December. So let's stand back, sit back and watch and wait. I'm not suggesting long, I'm not suggesting short. I'm suggesting watching and waiting, just like we did through September. It looks like we're going to have to do it in October. Maybe we're going to have to do it in November as well. Boring, I know, but sometimes this is the best way to do it. Trading's like fishing, and I say it a few times. You can't rush a fish to bite the hook. You have to sit there and wait for it to nibble on it. You go, I'm going fishing, I'm going to catch a fish immediately. No, you're not. You're not. You're going to have to sit there on the side of the river and wait for it to nibble onto that hook, and then you got to reel it in. And that's basically what we're doing here. We're waiting for a very big fish to bite, one that would probably feed us for a lifetime. But you can't force it to bite your bloody hook. It's going to have to do it on its own. Right, I'm going to leave it with you there then, guys. I hope you have a nice day. Good weekend. Take it easy.